Very warm welcome to the SMI Academy, part number 6. My name is Jack Schaper. I'm a consultant with Westbury IT Services in the Netherlands. I will mute your microphones for the duration of my presentation and then open the lines again at the end to go into any questions or remarks you might have. Okay, so the last two SMI Academies, except for the open question rounds, were about REM, Report Enterprise Manager, the tool with which the SMI environment is created. So you've seen presentations about creating data selections, data contexts, and universes. These presentations have also been shared on our website, so if you have any questions about those, any unclarities, you can always go back and rewatch those to get that information. This presentation is the last part in a 3-part presentation, and it talks about computations. Basically what you've seen so far is how to get data from the source database into the reporting environment, create universes to be able to create reports on those universes and on that data. This is about enriching the data that you get from the source database, and being able to do all sorts of calculations and modifications to the data that you retrieve. Basically, I will do two. I will go through two examples. One about, and let me just go to the next slide here. One about rules based on data selections directly, and one about so-called universe rules. The first thing I'll do, and I have some 2 or 3 slides in which I will try to explain when you would use a data selection rule to do a calculation and when you would use a universe rule to do a calculation. The main difference between the two is that data selection rules are always based on a value that is related to one single record. So it allows you to, for example, calculate a derived value for a particular record, transform the data into something else, but always for one single record. The data, the result of the calculation, is stored in the SMI database and is related directly to the record in the main table. So for example, if you create a data selection rule for an incident, the result of that rule would be stored in the incident calculations table and would be related to the incident from the main incident table. Because it is a data selection rule, and because it is stored in the SMI database, that also means that the values in the calculation table will get inserted and or updated during incremental loads. So every hour or day or however many times you update your SMI database is also the moment that the calculations are updated and inserted for new records. Universe rules could do something similar, but usually they are used to do calculations on a set of query results. So not on a single record, but on a bunch of records in a query result. So things like number of, percentage of, average of. Basically, that data is not stored in the SMI database, but it's calculated at query time. So every time you create a report or refresh a report and you select an object that has a universe rule behind it, the calculation is carried out. So it can span a set of records, and of course it will be reusable in all your reports. So going to the next slide, particularly about data selection rules. So some examples of what you could do with data selection rules: transform single field values into something else. Something I will show later on, which is abundant in our out-of-the-box model, is the transformation of Boolean values into something reusable. A Boolean in HP Service Manager is usually stored as a true or a false or a nil value. The problem with that is that it's not always evaluated in the same way by a database or by a query engine, so the outcome could be shaky. We transform those values into a 0 and a 1 just to make sure that the outcome will always be the same, and also that you can use them in calculations. Another thing that you can do with the data selection rule is combine data from different fields, even from different tables, as long as they apply to one single record, I remind you, and calculate a value as an outcome of a combination of other fields. So the example I put in here, and that's also actually an example that I will use in practice in my demo in a minute. For example, if for an incident the status is equal to open and the SLA breach indicator is true, then we would like this record to show in a column a value open past due. So this I could use to filter, I could use to calculate, and so on. So it's a combination of two fields that lead to one other value. Another thing is, for example, to group multiple values into a single value. Like if the status of an incident is not equal to resolved or closed, then I would like you to show the value, the status as open, else show it as closed. Things like that. Or if an assignment group, for example, is in the list XYZ, then it belongs to Department A, and if it's in another list, it belongs to Department B. So this could be very useful when you create reports and want to group things or want to put filters in to limit your data. Data selection rules are used to calculate durations, times between two dates, for example. And at the bottom it says also values can be obtained from one single table, so from the incident table, for example, or from a combination of data in multiple tables, as long, again, as all this data pertains to one individual record, because the result, the outcome of the calculation is always stored with a record. So that's crucial. As far as universal rules are concerned, I already said you can do similar transformations as with data selection rules. The big difference is that you do it at query time and you don't store it in the SMI database. But also you can apply those calculations on sets of records. So calculate the number of open incidents, calculate the percentage of breached incidents, calculate the average open duration of incidents for the last 6 months, etc. That's something that you obviously don't want to store in your SMI database. You want to be able to calculate those values in a report. Now, of course, you can do that for each individual report that you create. You can quite easily create those calculations on report level, but you would have to do it for every report that you need that calculation for. And you would also need to make sure that if you have multiple report builders, that each of those know exactly what to do to get the result, and each of those also uses the same definitions to get to the end result, because that's a big problem in larger organizations where you have many people building reports. You need to make sure that everyone uses the same definition to do a calculation and gets the same outcome. So this is where universal rules help, because they can pre-calculate values for you, and you can just easily drag them into a report and have the results that you need. So those are the only slides that I'm going to show. The rest is basically the environment itself, and so I'm switching to my demo environment. Opening REM, in this case my HP Service Manager model. This is an out-of-the-box model, which is slightly newer than the out-of-the-box model that you might know. This has some additional calculations in there already, some so-called metrics, especially for use in dashboards, etc. But they are available out of the box. to our customers. So the first example I want to do is first show you where these calculations are stored. So I'm opening a data selection, in this case the data selection for incident, and in my data selection for incidents you can see a tab called data selection rules, and there are two rule sets available. Out of the box, in most environments you would have the SP out of the box incident derived fields. In the newer versions we also have a set of calculations called incident metrics. Let me just open the out of the box one. I can go to the SQL here on the right hand side and click on the button behind it to get the SQL. And actually that's just what it is. It's a SQL statement that is carried out on the SMI database. For each calculation there's an entry in here. For example, the DER is a brief for derived. So we have the derived initial impact, where we translate the numerical values which are stored in the HP Service Manager database to a value that the end user can see and can use in his report. The same goes for severity, for priority code. Then there are some booleans, for example, where we have operational device, which is an out-of-the-box field in HP Service Manager, is a boolean, and that is translated into a 0 or a 1. So basically what it says here, when the value in operational device in lowercase is equal to T for true, then you should store 1 in the calculation table. Otherwise, if it's not true, so if it's false or if it's nil, you should enter the value 0. So that's, let's say, the out-of-the-box way of dealing with Boolean values. The same goes for SLA breach, for problem management candidate, solution candidate, etc. And then we have some out-of-the-box calculations where we calculate the time in seconds between open time and close time, and that is automatically stored in the universe as actually as 3 objects, one for open close duration in days, one open close duration in hours, and one open close duration in minutes. And then there's a join here because this is carried out, as I said, at load time, so during the incremental load. So basically what it does, it gets the values from the batch table, so from batch incidents, joins them to the incident table, and then does the calculation on those, so that it doesn't do the calculation on the whole data set, but just on the values, on the records that are present in the batch that's being loaded at that time. So if I want additional calculations, I can just add to those, and these are pretty simple. These are calculations that all pertain to 1 or 2 fields, all directly coming from the SMI database. I could combine data from different tables in here. That would obviously lead to another type of SQL. I'll create a fairly simple example in here. What I would like to do is create an additional status field, call it derived status, and basically turn the existing values into either open or closed. So what I want to say is, if the status of an incident is either resolved or closed, it should show as closed. All other situations it should show as open. So this would allow me to create a report, for example, and filter on, give me all open incidents, give me all closed incidents, without including or excluding all of these additional statuses. Also, I'm going to use that later on, further on in the example, to create a metric on universe level. So universe calculation that returns the number of open incidents, or the number of open incidents past due, I should say. So I need to do 2 things, and the order in which I do them is not important. I need to come up with the SQL that transforms my status, my individual record statuses, problem status as it's called in HP Service Manager database, the individual problem status of an incident transforms it into a value open or closed. That's one. Two, I need to create an additional field in my data selection that actually points to that column in the calculation table so that I can use it in a universe and use it in a query. So again, the order in which I do it is not important. I have prepared this a little, so I'm not going to type this this SQL statement. I'm just going to copy it and paste it in. So somewhere in my list, it doesn't really matter where, I like to keep certain types of calculations close together. So I'm just going to put it below the priority code and just paste it in. This one, DER derived status, where it says when the problem status is in this list, resolved or closed, then the outcome should be closed, else it should be open end. So all incidents will get either closed or open, depending on their status. Make sure that you end it with a comma if there's still something behind it. So this is my SQL statement. Number two, I have to add an additional field. These are the fields that are in there out of the box. I'm going to click on Add Computed Field, and that's somewhere in this list. You have Computed Field, as you can see. I'm going to group it in the just in the codes table, in the codes class with the other statuses. The column name is going to be derived status, or whatever you would like it to be. The column type, this is the column name should be exactly, that's my mistake, should be exactly the name that I entered in my rule. So it would be DER derived status, because I'm actually pointing to the incident calculations table here. The column type in this case, it's just envarchar. It's going to contain at most 25 characters. It's a text field. Actually, it's less than 10, but it doesn't really matter. And then the caption is going to be the name that the field gets in the universe, and that's where I'll put in derived status. And it is a dimension. So this field here, derived status, which points to the column DER derived status, now gets its data from that column in the calculation table that will be present as soon as I generate this model. So that's what I need to do. I will need to generate this model, and actually I'm not going to generate a universe. I haven't done any universe changes. I'm just going to generate the database and the ETL. So there we go. So this goes through the SMI database and updates it. The first thing it will do is it will add an additional column to the incident calculation table, DER derived status, and furthermore it will extend the ETL. It will create a calculation job to actually update this field. And when I do it like this, when I add an additional field and I don't do anything else beside this, that means that from the next incremental load onward, this field will start getting populated. But it will only be populated with the records that have been added or modified since the previous incremental load. Obviously, if I want to do this for the entire set of incidents that I already have in my SMI DB, I would need to do the calculation on the entire incident table. If I want that, I need to manually update something in the SMI database, in my basically my meta tables, to carry this out. So let me just minimize this. Go into SQL Server Management Studio, open my SMI DB that I'm using for this purpose, and if I go into tables, and go into HPSM incident calculations, which is the table I just modified, and go into select, you can see that there's an additional column here called DER derived status, but that it's empty. If I want again to recalculate all these values, here is what I need to do. I need to go into the batch set tables for incidents, which contains all of the batch sets that have been carried out in this environment, and you can see that the state of each of these batch sets is full, and full means the data has been loaded and the calculation runs have been carried out successfully. That is actually what it means. So if I want to make sure that it's going to redo my calculation runs, it's going to go into this state table and check what the state is. I need to reset this to 2, for example, which means that the calculations still need to be carried out. So I can just create an update statement, do a new query on the SMI DB, say update DBO batch incident set state equals 2. It needs to be a full stop after that. So there we go. So this is the actual SQL that I would need to carry out. There we go. If I refresh this now, you can see the state is set to 2. So if I now stop doing anything and wait till the next incremental load, which would take place in an hour or so, it's going to go through the entire incident set and update all of the calculations in the incident calculations table. If I wanted to do that now, I would manually need to kick off the stored procedure that is used to update the database, and I want to obviously show you what has happened. So I'm going to go into programmability, stored procedures, and there is a stored procedure for incidents, which is incident computation. So if I'm going to run this, then it's going to do all of the computations for incidents. Now this is going to take a little while, probably around a minute or so. So in the meantime, I will go back into REM. I will show you in a minute that the data actually is present. So what I will have is an incident calculation table with a value closed or open for each individual incident. If I want that field to be available in my universe to be able for me to be able to create a report on that, I would have to go into universe, open my incident management universe, right mouse click on fields here, say add fields from data selection, and then my new field, derived status, is available here in the list of fields that have not yet been added to my universe. So I'm clicking on this. If I refresh this view very quickly, you can see under codes that I now have derived status available. So if I generate my universe now, I will have this additional field and I can immediately start reporting on it. But I want to go one step further than that, and that gives me the opportunity to create a universe rule. What if I wanted to be able to calculate for an incident whether it's open but past due, meaning the incident is still open, but the SLA breach indicator has already been set to 1. The SLA has already been breached. What if I wanted that? Hold that thought. Let me just go back here. The stored procedure has been carried out. So let me go back into the incident calculation table. If I now refresh this, you can see that each incident has a value either closed or open. So that has been carried out successfully. Let me minimize this. So as I was saying, I want to calculate the number of incidents that are open past due. So not for each individual incident, but the number of incidents. So I can do this with a universe rule. Let me just click here on fields, and you can see the universe rules tab is active and actually has rules. And there's a whole bunch of rules here that have been added for the purpose of metrics, mainly for dashboarding, but you can also use them in reports directly. Things like the first line fix rate, the SLA breach rate, things like aging brackets in business days or calendar days. There's a whole bunch of them, and there's also an explanation, some documentation around how these work. But these are available out of the box in the newer environments. If you actually want those, then obviously you can contact us to get them. But now I want to add an additional universe rule that calculates for a bunch of incidents if they are open and past due. So I'm going to use the new field that we just created to determine whether an incident is open or not, open or closed. And I'm going to combine that with the SLA breach indicator. So basically what I'm going to say, if the derived status is equal to open and the SLA breach indicator is equal to 1, then count the number of incidents. So creating a new universe rule, I'm right mouse clicking here on fields, click on add rule. There's 3 types. I'm just going to focus on this middle one, add a field to the universe with custom SQL. So that's added here at the bottom. I'm going to put it actually in metrics counts. I'm not putting a prefix in. I'm just going to group it in that class. The description, I can actually put a description in here that's included in the universe, and that shows a little explanation of what the rule or the metric does. In this case, I'm just gonna say number open past due, and the value that I'm creating is actually, it's a number. It's a numerical value. It's just a count of the number of incidents that have this value. So the column type is integer. The column name, actually it is called column name here, but it's not actually creating a column, it's creating an object in the universe. It's calculating this at query time. So I'm just going to say number open past due. So that's what I'm going to see over here. And the column length, I don't have to change that. This last bit here is important. If I want to be able to use this in a calculation in my report, basically if I want to be able to show the value, the outcome of this calculation in the context of the other objects in my query, I need to make sure that it's not a dimension, but it's a measure. This results actually in a group by statement in the SQL, and the measure function is obviously not average, but is sum. And then the important bit, of course, is the SQL. Again, I prepared this, so I'm just going to copy this SQL and let me open it for you and explain what I put in. So this says when the DER derived status field in the calculation table, the value is equal to open, and the incident calculations SLA breach indicator is equal to 1, then for each individual incident, return a value with 1, else 0. Go back. And then I'm going to sum all of those ones. So first I'm going to calculate if it's true, if each individual incident is open and past due. And when that is the case, I'm returning a 1 and I'm summing all of these 1s. So this gives me the total number of open incidents past due. There we go. Now the only thing I need to do is generate my universe. I don't have to do anything on ETL or on database level because I'm not changing the database. I'm calculating this at query time in the universe. So I'm just going to regenerate, switch off database and ETL, and just select the incident management universe. And wait till the generation process has finished, which will take some 20-30 odd seconds more. There we go, it's done. So now it's generated a new version of the incident management universe using the existing version, and it's stored it locally in my folder that I've indicated where it should put it. I'm just showing you in my incident universe structure. If I go to matrix counts, I now have a new object called number open past due, and you can see that the SQL syntaxis behind it is shown here. I can parse this object and it parses OK, which means that the SQL is correct. I can even display the number, so it tells me there's 1492 of these incidents. So OK. I'm exporting this because I'm sure that it is correct and it's what I meant. I'm overwriting the existing universe. This will not in any way impact my existing reports. There's just an additional field available in the reporting environment. And one more thing. So let me create a new report. This takes a little bit longer than I was hoping for, so let me just, there we go. I already switched it off. Let me just use the Web Intelligence Rich client to do this. Create a new document. I can do it from here on the Incident Management Universe. There we go. So first of all, I would like to see for a bunch of incidents IDs what the status is and what the derived status is, and let me just limit that to all of the incidents that were created last month. There we go. So these are all closed. Let me just put a filter in to see if we have some additional values. There we go. So the ones, for example, that are pending change, just to show you that it's actually correct, are shown as open here with their original status pending change. Now I'm going to change this query. Still do the same thing. Let me show. Let me view by assignment group the number of open incidents past due created last month. And there we go. Let me just drag that in there. So there we go. I have my assignment groups, and I have my number of open incidents which are past due. I can even combine that with the number of incidents, the other incidents that are open. So that concludes this academy. I will open the lines now for any questions or remarks that you might have. Okay, you are unmuted. Anyone, any questions or remarks pertaining to this subject?
Yeah, it looks slightly different to mine. I don't seem to have the indicator where it says 402, whether the calculation's been done or not. I think I'm on the previous version, aren't I?
Yes, well, that is correct, Chris. The metrics that I showed you in my out-of-the-box model have been created in the last couple of months, so they are not available in your version of SMI.
So all I'm doing is going to the entities table and telling it to recalculate a particular table.
Oh, that's what you're talking about. I'm sorry. Yeah.
Yeah. You know where you said, oh, it all says 4, meaning the calculation's been done.
Yes.
I don't see those fields unless I'm looking in the wrong place.
Well, you need to look those up in the batch incident set table.
Have a look. Ah, right. I haven't gone far enough.
Because the batch incident table has different information in it.
Scratch that, then I have.
Right. Okay. Thankfully. All right.
Yeah, because I've been doing it a totally different way, and that seemed a lot quicker. You can do it there and then and not wait for a data load, can't you? And you don't have to do a whole data load.
Yes. That's correct.
Right. Oh, that's fine. I know where I am now.
Okay. Good. Anyone else? Okay, then I would like to thank you very much for your attention, and if you have any questions coming out of this, you know that there are additional academies also with generic questions, and obviously you can also always contact us with your questions. So have a very nice day, and till the next SMI Academy.